So I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. For any of our new WiSE students, my name is Corinne and I'm the WiSE Program Project Support Officer. And Carla is also here, who is the Project Assistant. So I just wanted to thank Sophie for joining us today. Today our focus is on the technology sector. And we're very lucky to have Sophie on board, who has extensive experience in attracting, I guess, students into this field. Our WiSE talks kind of originated as a result of the pandemic that we're going through. Our face-to-face activities have unfortunately been put on hold for the rest of the year. So we're hoping to still be able to connect our students with our professionals through our WiSE Talks virtual series. So it's an informal chat. If anyone has any questions at any point, do feel free to ask them, but we will have a dedicated question and answer time. Sophie's the University Partnerships Manager at FDM Group. She has qualifications in communications, PR, and careers education. She also did work with our university a while back. And she is passionate about connecting people and maximising relationships between the tertiary education sector and corporate Australia. She has 14 years experience of connecting students with employers. And in her current role with FDM Group, her focus is on the IT sector.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. And I've got probably a slightly unconventional career story for you, because I found myself working in IT. But that's, I think, an important story to tell, because a lot of us, as we get into our careers, we don't necessarily know where they're going to lead. We have some initial ideas, but then we find ourselves in weird places, and that's because we say yes to opportunities. We make connections. We try out new things, and we find ourselves in these places. And so I found myself working in technology, and it's been, and I've got to say, I wouldn't choose to be anywhere else right now. It is exactly where I want to be. And it's an interesting way about how I got there. So I thought I might do a little bit of a prezzo. I won't do death by PowerPoint, but I'll take you through some basics, tell you a little bit about my story, tell you a little bit about where I ended up now, and then talk a little bit about careers in tech and demystify it a little bit, and break it down into mindsets and skill sets, and kind of open up a discussion about that. And there'll be lots and lots of time for Q&A afterwards. So potentially we can have a talk about what that means and what that means for you guys. So everybody behind your screens, if you could cross your fingers for me. The insights that I gained from that I always want to share with young people is, when you look at my story, what I did is I went and I studied something that I thought I would be good at and enjoy, and I did. And then I found some work in a way that I could apply it. And then I went, oh, I really enjoy this work. I want to study more. And I went and studied some more. And then I went, okay, this is really good. I'm going to apply it, and I'm going to go back and work. And then I sort of came in and out of that, and my pattern emerged. And I'm not by any stretch of the imagination putting this down as a template and saying this is what you should do. You should study and work and study and work. What I'm suggesting is that your pattern and the way that you move through your career, it will emerge, and you can't control it. And this is coming from a control freak. You can't control the exact trajectory. The notion of a 5-year, 10-year plan is lovely for motivation, but you don't want to hold on to those things too tightly, because then you miss out on opportunities that present themselves. So my pattern emerged, and that's because I lent into things, I lent into opportunities. And what it turns out I do is I study and then I work, and then I study and I work. And when I say I study and work, I don't stop and start and go between them. I do both at the same time. But obviously there's a leaning into new study while I work, and then there's a leaning into applying that. And that turned out to be my pattern. And your pattern, once you get out there, it will emerge. And potentially you will never look at study again, and you will jump from job to job to job to job, and you'll specialize and you'll go and launch your own business, and that will be your trajectory, that will be your pattern. But your pattern will emerge by itself. There's no need to force it. My advice to students these days in the workshops that I do is to try new things and then lean into strengths and passions. But the important part is you then need to repeat that. So you can't try new things once and then go, oh yeah, I'm good at that, and I'll lean into that, and then do it and then expect to be fulfilled, because that's going to lead to a dead end. The energy's going to run out. So I would always suggest try new things, lean into what you're good at, lean into what you enjoy, but then try new things again. And, you know, I'm well and truly halfway probably through my career, and I'm still trying new things, and I still think it's really, really important for development, and you never, never stop. And I'm a yes person. So I've gained a lot of my, career progression because I say yes to things. However, I don't necessarily naturally go looking to try new things. It's not a natural bent of mine. So I will, if people come to me and say, do you want to try this? I'll go, yeah. And if people go, oh, Soph, can you do this? And I'll go, yeah, I'm a yes person. So that's good. But what I wish I did earlier is just try new things for the hell of it. Teach myself a new thing. Go and ask to try something new. Go lean on a colleague and say, what is it that you do? Can I have a look at that? And show some initiative in that sense. So even we talk about showing initiative as an intern, I think you should be showing initiative as a manager, as a senior executive. You should be trying new things. You should be exposing yourself to new concepts. So I wish I did that earlier. I am definitely doing that in my new role now, trying to learn technology. And so I would recommend that cycle to you. And I would recommend to think about that. Try new things, lean in. Try new things, lean in. One important thing today is I'm a really, really proud single mum, and I also have a career. And I'm not saying that you can have it all. That's not my message. But I am saying that I have zero regrets. I've given it a best shot. I knew that I wanted a career. I knew that I wanted kids. I didn't know what that looks like. You're never, ever going to know what that looks like. You go and do. So I'm just here to tell you that you can. If you're out there and you want a career and you want kids and you don't know what that looks like, that's okay. Because no one is really going to predict what that looks like, and it's not going to look the same for anybody. But I am a really, really proud single mum. And I do have a career and I make it work. And I'm in a position now where I've managed to land a job with flexibility that I love doing. And I get to spend, a great amount of time with my kids, and it is possible. So I want that to be a message for you out there. It is possible to have that. Not necessarily have it work out perfectly and smoothly. No, I wouldn't be sending that message. And the journey hasn't finished. So I'm not sure how ancient I look out there. I sometimes get a bit confused. I sometimes still think I'm in my 20s. I'm not. But I'm definitely older than all of you guys. And my journey hasn't finished, to the point where I've even taken a step today in my career that's something brand new, and I'm going to go back to more study. So I've just enrolled literally today. Before I even signed up to this thing, I've enrolled in more study because I've made another decision about where I want to take my career. So it's never over. It's never, ever, ever, ever over. And it's never, ever, ever too late to do anything. And so that's where I'm at. So that's a little bit. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and you'll learn quickly that once I start talking, I don't stop. But that's about me. So moving on, I now work at FDM, and FDM is a market leader in the recruit, train and deploy industry. And that model is new to Australia, and it doesn't mean a whole lot when you say we're in the recruit, train and deploy industry. What does that mean? But we have been around for 30 years in the UK, and we've spread across APAC, we've spread across, Europe, North America, most recently into APAC, but our most recent office is in Sydney. And we've been in Barangaroo now for 2 years, but we're growing rapidly. Reason being is that tech skills are in high demand. And that's what that's what our business model relies on. So the business model is recruit. We recruit high potential. We recruit from all disciplines, and we look for the right attitude and aptitude for tech. Our clients need a vast array of tech skills. What we pride ourselves on is our academy that trains up for the specific tech skills that our clients need. So we go to market and we look for potential. So we don't look for someone who's ready to go. We don't look for someone who ticks this box and this box and this box with languages. We look for potential. We look for an attitude where you're keen for the opportunity, you're curious, you've got to get up and go, sort of start to you, and you show initiative. That's the attitude we want from you. The aptitude is whether you can absorb the training. And that's going to depend on the kind of brain that you were born with, but also then trained through uni. So it does appeal to the more engineering, science, maths, analytical brains. But essentially anybody can pick up the training if they're open to it. So we obviously recruit from tech backgrounds, but we also recruit from, we've got a consultant from fine arts, but he got exposed to tech. He decided to learn a little bit of tech, self-taught, and he was perfect for one of our roles. So we do really recruit from all disciplines. It's just a passion for tech and the right attitude to learn. So if we discover that you're the right match for our program, we bring you into our academy and we put you down the technical pathway or the business pathway. Now, I need to always qualify this. We don't train for management consulting. This isn't a management consulting pathway. This is about technology. The technical pathway is about creating, designing, building from the bottom up software dev. And the business pathway is more about the support and the management of that technology. So both are technical pathways. One's more technical than the other, one's more development. The training usually lasts for about 12 weeks. And then as we get to know you through that training and we make sure that you pass your modules, we match you up with our clients. And so currently in Sydney, our clients include KPMG, Macquarie Bank, Commonwealth Bank. We have Bupa, insurance company in Melbourne, federal government, Sportsbet, NAB, and we're moving, and I won't announce any names yet, but we're moving into the retail sector now as well. So we partner with big name clients who need people to deploy on tech projects immediately. They can't bring them through the grad program. They have a business need straight away. And we are very proud of our training program that we actually fast track your specialization and send you straight into the business. So that's where the deployment comes in. As an FDM employee, you remain an FDM employee for 2 years and we deploy you out to client site. And you serve under the FDM banner as a consultant for 2 years. And then beyond the 2 years, it's really up to you. You can transfer to the client and that's the usual path. About 80 to 90% of our consultants end up being absorbed by their client company because the client company doesn't want to let them go and they want to work there, and FDM thinks that's fantastic. But sometimes they come back to us and we redeploy them as senior consultants, and sometimes because they're hooked up with this amazing new network, they find their own opportunities and we support them move to the next place they want to go to. So beyond the 2 years, it's really up to you. FDM sets these consultants up with the training, the specialization, the fast track into the big name company, the experience, the career progression, the career development support while they're there, making sure that they're happy and productive and hitting their career goals. But beyond the 2 years, they've served their FDM sort of term and they can choose to stay with the client or come back to us and renegotiate. So that's our business model. We recruit, we train, we deploy, and we specialize in tech. We're a values-driven company, and they're pretty simple values, but they need to resonate with our consultants if they want to come on board. So together we're stronger. This is an important one for tech, because I can assure you, if you have a career in tech, you will never work in isolation, ever. You will never sit behind a computer in a room isolated by yourself and not talk to anybody. It doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. I don't know why that concept is out there. Working in tech requires you to communicate every day, cross disciplines, multi teams. You work together on solutions. So you achieve far more in collaboration with people than you do by yourself. And so at FDM, together we are stronger. It's about teamwork, it's about collaboration, and that needs to be something that resonates with you. We strive for success. So this is a business that started in London in an attic. It was a startup about 30 years ago, and it's become a global company because we aim high. So we need our consultants to aim high. We need our consultants to be ambitious. We need our consultants to have big dreams and drive for them, because that's the only way that you hit the goals. So we strive for success, and we like to see that come from our employees. We're committed to our clients. At the end, if we don't have jobs from our clients, we can't provide opportunities to grads. So we need to listen to the client needs. We need to listen to what's going on in tech. We need to know what's on the cutting edge. What are people using? Where are they shifting? What's trending, so that we can upskill in our academy and make sure that our consultants hit those goals. So we're committed to our clients, and we need to hear from our consultants that they're committed to, and that they can listen to those needs and understand what that means and get on the same page. We say it how it is. At FDM, it's transparency and authenticity is really important to us. So we'd prefer to be real rather than gloss over an issue. If there's a problem, we need to know about it. If there's an opinion, we want to hear it. So our consultants need to come with a voice, obviously a professional voice, but we need people to contribute their ideas. We need people to contribute their insights and speak up. And we can't be all talk. We need to make some action happen. So we are a results-driven company. We need to see return on investment, the big scary ROI. We have a bottom line, and we need to make things happen, and we need to see the results. So when we ask our consultants at interview about their examples, about their stories, we really need to hear that story go all the way to the end. We don't necessarily want to hear, I've had lots of experience in teamwork. I've been involved in this team and that team and that team. Okay, so what did you do and what did you achieve? We need to hear that whole example. We need you to take us through that journey and talk about what it is that you experienced, what was your contribution, and what was the achievement at the end. If the achievement at the end was it didn't work and I learned that I'd never do it that way again, it's still an achievement, but it's a complete example. And so we need to know what the outcome was. We need to hear that you're a results-driven person as well. Now, I spend a lot of time going to universities and pitching for careers in technology, and pitching to not just people who study technology, but people who may have a slight interest in technology, or maybe just want to understand what technology looks like. And I always start with the mindsets, because funnily enough, you might realize that you have a few of these mindsets, and you may not realize that this is actually setting you up for working really well in technology. So when it comes to technology, we're looking for people who enjoy a challenge. We're looking for problem solvers. We're looking for opportunity seekers that they go looking for the answer. They go looking to teach themselves something. They show initiative. And we're looking for people who are curious. This one's a really important one. If the concept of learning something new every day exhausts you, and it does, it exhausts a lot of people. If the concept of learning is something that de-energizes you, technology is going to be a really, really hard career for you, because curiosity and the enjoyment of learning is something that's really going to propel you in technology, because technology is constantly changing. You're constantly having to Google things. I actually talk to some of my consultants, and they say the most helpful thing is typing a question into Google every day, and they still do it. People out there in work, that's not some rookie skill. That's what people do. They Google stuff. How do I, and they read. So they're constantly learning. And so curiosity needs to come from such a deep, genuine place that you enjoy the learning process and that you're curious to find out answers, because in tech, that's going to be a daily requirement. So that top row really, really sets you up for being the type of person that will take on training well, and that will thrive in a tech training environment. Yeah. The next row down are the people that work in tech who have to actually apply it to business. So it's all well and good to build the tech at your own pace and with your own parameters and your own goals and have control over it. But when you work for a business and you apply the tech, you need to be prepared to be adaptable, because in business, the goalposts shift and you have to go with that. You have to be flexible. There's changes that come, like COVID, that we never expect, and you have to be able to flow with that. Relationship building, I've mentioned, you're never going to work in isolation. And so in business, you need to be able to communicate what you're doing. You need to be able to build rapport, and you need to work together on solutions. So you're not going to be given something to just do independently and then come back to the team. You're going to work in the team to create that solution, and then potentially with other business departments to deliver it. So relationship building is really important. And then last but not least, and this is going to go out to every university student in every degree looking for a job, resilience and showing grit is key to survival these days, because changes come that aren't expected, things break, there's the external life that also fits into your career. You know, you don't just switch off your life when you walk through the office door, or switch on your laptop from your home these days. So there's a certain level of resilience that you really need to build. And if you can demonstrate that early, and you can demonstrate that grit, that you're the type of person who may have a bad day, but you can go to bed and you can wake up in the morning and you can say, I'm going to try again. That's about as complicated as resilience is. It's facing a challenge, it's acknowledging the challenge, it's maybe working through an emotion about that challenge, and then keeping going. And more, we need that from a very early grad level, and that will only grow through your career. But you need to, at interview, think about how you're going to demonstrate that, and think about stories about where you faced something and it didn't go the way that you thought it would, or it broke, or it was out of your control. And you know what? You didn't give up, and you got up the next day and you gave it another crack, or it broke and you decided, okay, I'm going to go fix it. So showing grit is absolutely critical in technology at the grad level, but also more senior. Skill sets. Now, for anyone who is working in tech, this won't look so scary. For people who aren't working in tech, this does look scary, and I want to make it not quite as scary. The key skill sets I always talk about to students that they need to usually demonstrate in interview when it comes to tech roles is project management, coding, systems architecture, and data analytics. So these are skills that obviously are going to come through in your studies, but they're also skills that you can go and develop by yourself. There's so much out there on LinkedIn Learning. There is so much out there on free courses like Coursera and Udemy, and what's the other one? Code Academy. I can send through a whole list if you're interested in free online stuff where you can learn from scratch. There's people that have come from fine arts backgrounds, business backgrounds, you know, pure science backgrounds, who haven't actually ever coded in their life, but given the chance to go through it by step, they've got systematic thinking, and they're a problem solver. And so all you need to do is have the opportunity to step through and actually absorb the information. And so my advice on these skill sets, if you haven't got these already, or even if you do, I really, really recommend going and doing something for yourself, a self-started project where you go on LinkedIn Learning and you learn about Agile. You learn about waterfall, you learn about Kanban, and you see if you can apply some of those project management tools to your group work. Or you can see how they're applied to a corporate situation. So be well versed in this stuff, and you don't need to rely on your academics to do this for you. You have everything in your computer from your couch right now. So get on LinkedIn Learning, look up the free online courses. She Codes actually is a free coding program for females, which really, really encourages women to pursue careers in tech. And I mean, that's the other really important thing to say tonight, is that a lot of companies, including FDM, really care about the gender balance in tech and really care about getting more females into the industry. And it's not for the sake of waving the flag and saying we have even genders and aren't we great. What's really important about gender balance is the different perspectives that it brings, and diversity is critical in how we grow and how we create solutions, and how we make sure that all perspectives are represented. And so evening out the gender balance in all these male dominated sectors it's important. It's a valuable contribution. It's not about box ticking. It's about realizing the worth of diversity. Yeah. And so FDM's really, really pro, bringing in females into our consultant program. We're really, really proud of the fact that we have a 55% female representation in our senior executive. And so bringing women into tech and telling the stories, making it accessible, making it cool, is really, really important to us. And I know it's really important to our clients as well. We specifically get clients who ask for 50-50 gender split because they need to see it in their businesses as well. So not only is tech, are tech skills in demand, females with tech skills, demand is hot. And so if you get your foot in the door, world's your oyster. So underneath those basic skill sets, which you can teach yourself, and I also back up, you can teach yourself because I'm teaching myself SQL. Now I sort of expect a round of applause at that stage, but that's huge for me, and it's a really, it's a base tech skill that we expect all of our FDMers to go through. It's taught within the first week of our training. I'm still learning, but it's an example where if I can teach myself something, then sort of really anybody can. And what I've demonstrated by doing that, by going out, and what I encourage you to do, even if you're studying tech, I still encourage you to pick a project and to go out and teach yourself something, because you know what it does. It gives you a story. And at interview, when someone says, tell me about a time when you recently learned something, or tell me about some of your skills, or tell me about a hobby that you took up, or tell me about. You've got a story where you go, you know what, I recognized the need for tech skills in the market. And from my degree, there was a gap. I identified a gap. So what I decided to do is, in my calendar, I put aside 2 hours a week. And I would sit down and I would watch YouTube videos and I would read LinkedIn articles. And I decided to fill the gap and really upskill and prove to myself by writing X game or X program, or creating a system that so I'll give you an example. Someone in an interview told me that they thought it was hideous scanning job boards and the constant trawling through job boards to find what they wanted to do. So they wrote a program which looked for jobs for them, and it put in all the keywords. It told the which search engines to go look for, and it would bring back the results and spit the results back, once a day, and bring back the jobs that hit those buzzwords, so that the person didn't have to constantly trawl through job boards. That's the kind of story that tells me initiative, tells me that they went out and learned something themselves. They're curious. Yeah. Tells me that they've got some grit, that they may not have enjoyed it at first, but they kept on going and going and going until they could see it in action, and they applied it. And so suddenly you're ticking all of these boxes that the employers want to hear. And stories is how you get the job. It's all well and good to say, I'm a good communicator, I work in teams, I've had experience here. We want to hear the stories. And so you need to come with us with valuable stories that tell us things about you, that hit those mindsets, that hit those skill sets. Yeah, and marry them all up. The other key thing in working in tech is the ability to ask questions and search for answers. This seems really, really basic, but what it does require is for us to lower the ego. So if we don't know the answer to something, it requires you to go and ask someone if they know. It requires you to Google something. It requires you to go looking and search for the answers, and not just say, oh, well, I don't know how to do that, so that's the end of that story. In tech, that's never the end of the story. It's, okay, well, where do I go look and find the answer? Who do I go and ask? Or who do I go and ask who may know someone else who will know the answer? So the ability to ask questions and search for answers is actually a skill that you need to practice and practice and practice and practice. And when you come up against something that you don't know, okay, so what are you going to do about it? Who are you going to ask? What are you going to Google? How are you going to find that out? Because it's possible to find out. How are you going to do it? And then communication skills. And you're going to get this more and more that you get involved in things. These days you have to get good at talking to a laptop, but you need to be able to communicate professionally. You need to be able to communicate clearly, and you need to decode a lot of the lingo if you're out there working in tech, so that you can talk to the everyday person about what's going on. So you need to refine your communication skills, make them appropriate for business, and people that communicate effectively move quicker through their career. They create relationships, they get on the same page with people, they make connections, and they make things happen. So communication skills are really, really important, because you're going to be collaborating with people. So it's a pretty basic summary, but one that I want to stress to everybody out there. With the right mindset and the right skills, whether you're from a tech background or not, you've got a really exciting potential career path. And I can't stress enough, I work with so many different companies, and I have worked with so many different companies for over 10 years now in the tech space. And it's booming. And it's really exciting and really dynamic. And once you get a foot in the door, and it's not too hard, you've got to have some tenacity, but once you get a foot in the door, where you go from there is really your choice. And you know, the job title that you can have in 5 years' time hasn't been thought of yet. I know you might have already heard that. That's a pretty classic one, but I can tell you now, I didn't know that University Partnerships Manager in a tech company, in a tech consultancy, I didn't know that existed. And so you don't necessarily aim for the job title, but you look at what's out there and you learn from what's out there, and you say yes, and you try new things. So I hope that's been helpful.
What would you think would be too much to include into a resume, or too much to bring up with an employer when it sometimes feels like it's not related to the job at hand?
I would never do away with the fine arts, because I think that makes you a well-rounded applicant. And I think in the tech space, we want to know that it's actually reassuring to know that you're multidimensional. And so a computer scientist who has a fine arts bent or interest or passion is quite interesting. And so I would never do away with it out of your CV. That being said, I would always recommend that you tailor your CV for the role that you're going for. So if the role that you're going for is specifically tech, and you're really going to lean on that computer science part of you, then that's got to come first and foremost and, you know, up front.
Yeah, I'm in my final year of business and ICT, and I was wondering, in such a male-dominated industry for ICT, literally I can go into a lecture and only see like how many girls in the palm of my hand. I can count them with one hand. If FDM, or if you knew, if
land something where you can grow a bit, and then lean in a different direction and add a bit, and then lean into a different direction and add a bit. And if you've already identified a few things that you're interested in, fantastic. And if you end up taking a role that enhances A, don't drop B, still find a way to get involved in that, whether it's a side hobby or whether it's a side hustle.